dynamic dean, a courageous consultant, I guess I should say a dynamic consultant, an awesome orator, and an amazing advocate for students. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Dave Urso.
And thank you all. All right, good. That'll be more meaningful at the end if you still feel the same way, but we'll see if we can get there. How many of you, is this a second trip to TIFI? Second? Third? First? First of 10? All right, good. Keep your hands up. We want to make sure that, that we continue to rally. But I'm thrilled to see so many people here, thrilled to be able to spend some time with you, thrilled to be the opening keynote in the middle of the first day. I think that that's going... What? No, it's all about logistics at a certain point, but we're excited to have so many of you here. And I did start as past president of TIFI, but I don't think of it as a sense of humor thing. I really think of it as a student services sort of others before myself, because the bylaws required us to have a past president. Someone needed to step up and take all the glory of saying I've been there before and done things without actually having to do the work. That's Student Services 101, right? Work where the work... It's not. It's not? All right, well, hopefully it may be as we develop. But what I want to do over our 4 hours together is get you to think critically. Brad, how much time do I have?
4 hours.
Oh, as much as I need. Perfect. And that's the best possible answer you can give me. In our time together, especially my pillar friends over here, I hope that you will watch this video later when it's available so you can see what you missed. But in the interim, we're going to get started. I want to tell you a little about myself. My name is Dave. I'm fortunate to be here, fortunate to talk with you all a little bit, and I am one of you. I worked in student services. I was the coordinator of the first year experience for a long time at a school called Lord Fairfax Community College in Virginia, just outside of D.C., and we learned a lot in the way. I sat where you sat. I've done some of the things you've done, and I'm here because I know what we do every day changes lives. I know that, I feel that, but we don't necessarily get the credit. What's more important about conversations like this is I realize that we can do it even better. If we didn't do what we do, no one else would do, but there's a better iteration of ourselves out there tomorrow, next week, next semester, next year. And a lot of times in student services, we get so daunted and overwhelmed, we get pushed down that we are literally doing what we have to do to keep things from falling apart. Because of that, we are seldom afforded the opportunity to push things forward and try things new and different. In the next 57.5 minutes, I'm going to implore you to try to do something different. That's going to be the conversation we have. I was speaking with one of your fellow attendees right before I got started, and he said, please, please, we just ate, don't be boring. If that's where we're setting the bar for the next little time we share together, I feel okay that we can get there as a unit. I will try not to be boring. If you're not entertained, that's on you. I'm going to be funny, I'm going to be engaging, and I'm going to have fun. You paid to be here. If you're bored, leave. I'm not necessarily worried. That's between you and your supervisor or whoever cut the check. But we're going to have a good day together. I will tell you a little about myself. I fell into community colleges backwards at the age of 24. Okay, my first time I ever set foot on a community college campus. I didn't know what they were about. I didn't know why they existed. It wasn't part of my own story growing up. But I went once and I fell in love. I went to a graduation speech. The president at the time stood up and said, four-year colleges find their distinction by standing at the front door and saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you are, you are. Giving them the same set of interventions and then graduating those students and saying we've changed lives. Community colleges stand at the front door and say, if you want to learn, come join us, we will get you to the finish line. Done. I'm in. Where do we sign up? And I've never looked back. I had a chance to coordinate it. I ran the foundation for several years, and we raised a lot of money to be able to help students. You see the areas of expertise that I've listed on the bottom, things that I feel like I am a resident expert in. If you pay careful attention, you will see we and monopoly towards the end of the list, because these are critical skills that will advance my... Well, they may. I'm looking for the right opportunity to use my Wii bowling skills to make a lot of money, but I have a feeling it's just around the corner as we can. But what we really want to know when somebody has the right, the opportunity, the power to stand before us is, who are you and why should I care? So let me tell you something about my story. This is my wife, Carrie. We met somewhere along the way. I can't totally remember the details at this point. I get involved in the community a lot because community involvement is important to me, and I think we have to give to the community if we expect to get back from the community. I am a double Duke from JMU there in Virginia. I got my PhD in Colorado State University, not too far. I have had the opportunity to speak at graduations, high school graduations, nursing pendings, things like that, but most importantly, my story is about these people right here. In 2000 and something, we had twin sons. Okay, I am still trying to catch up mentally to what was there. And then because sometimes we make poor decisions, we said, let's dip back into the pool and see if we can even further stretch out our genealogical line. My wife said she wanted to have a daughter. I said, you do realize if you have twins once, you're likely to have twins again, and there's a chance it's you and 5 penises in this family for the next 18 years. Later, I'm going to get an email from Brad. He's going to say, do you remember the moment you knew you weren't going to be invited back? I'm going to say, was it when I said penises? I think that'll probably be the moment, but we'll see if we can get there together. Here's a more recent picture of the 5 of us, and this is really what it's all about, right? What we do matters, but who we are is more significant. We do this a lot to teachers, right? We go up to teachers, and the very first question we ask them is what? Thank you. I appreciate the partnership you've given me. We go up to a teacher, and they say, I teach, and we say, thank you so much. I knew it was here. We just had to get to know each other a little bit better. I think we ask the first question, what do you teach? And we have it fundamentally wrong. If we want to change the world, we must start asking teachers, who do you teach? What do you teach is secondary to the people in the seats. If we start to rethink and regroup and approach it that way, we will make a difference. If your phone's out, hop on social media. Do something to entertain yourself over the time we're together. Here's all the different ways you can connect with me. We're using 2 hashtags this week while you're here. First hashtag is Be Dynamic. Second hashtag is TYFY 2017. Tell us what resonates with you. Keep the conversation going. Connect with these colleagues in the social realm because they'll be the ones who pick you up when you have that tough day at work. Not that you ever have, but if you did, these would be the people you want to pick it up. Second ground rule, recognize there's power. You are part of the solution. By choosing to be here today, you have already proven that you want to do something better, stronger, more efficiently, richer, or with greater impact. That's awesome. Let's talk about how we get there. And the third is we're going to play a game. Anybody want to play a game this afternoon? All right, good. Thank you for those who do. This game is based on a show that I used to watch when I was growing up that I did not realize, I did not have the foresight to understand would eventually become creepy. The show was called Pee-wee's Playhouse, okay? Yeah, you're laughing, okay? I tell sometimes college students the same story. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, you missed out because Pee-wee, before you knew Pee-wee, was a reasonable Pee-wee. Still a lot of child contact, but it was okay. It was all right, okay? And we don't have to worry about the hallucinations that probably took place in the house. But every episode, as the episode got started, they established something. Anyone watch the show? Anybody remember? Say it again. You got it. The secret word, the word of the day. And what they would say right away is, no matter what, if anybody says this word today, we are going to do what? Scream, right? So literally, the fridge door would jump off its hinges and the pots would throw their hands in the air and everything would go crazy every time that word came up. In about 15 seconds, I'm going to ask my new friend Donald to give us a word. That's all he has to do. But Donald is nervous right now because he has convinced himself there's a correct word and an incorrect word that he can use. I am telling him and all of you there is no way to get this wrong, yet Donald's still like, I don't want to mess it up. Student 101, right? So all I'm going to do is ask him in just a second for a word. Are we ready? Donald, can we have a word? Student. Student. Good? Yeah? All right. So the word of the day for the next minute. What? The word of the day for the rest of the time we're together is going to be student. So anytime I say the word student, you say the word student, we see the word student on the screen, we are to scream, bang the table, throw your hands in the air, do anything you can to show you're excited. We're going to have a trial in just a second, but this is a great way if you have already tuned out for the entire rest of my comment to only listen for the word student and see how it works. And I give you a B-. There was a delay, but we're doing okay. I will tell you, I'm really excited that we have Donald here because every now and then, like with our students, we get a what? That was the plural, team, okay? You're still doing good, but I want you to stick with me as we move forward. We get a person who thinks they can be the class clown, right? So I'm doing this once, set it up just like I did with you. We get to the point, I ask the person what the word of the day is, and he says, the. I made it 6 minutes before I cried uncle. I'm like, I will never finish what we have to get through today if you cheer every time I say the word the. So I'm glad we have a good cerebral word, not likely to come up today. I can't think of student being in our comments anywhere, but if it is, I hope that you'll be on your toes because we have a lot of work to do and we are already half done my time. So we have to pick up the pace if you want to stay with me. Questions? We don't have time for questions. Let's move forward. We have a 4-part plan for today, which is what we're going to do together. Part number 1 is think about our students. You jumped on that one, which wasn't even fair. I didn't even get to the point of second. Second is think about our teaching. Third is think about the future. And we're going to wrap it up by sending you home with an idea. My goal today is to give you one idea to take back to campus, to implement to a program, to a concept, to a peer, to a colleague, to something to fundamentally change your institution for the better. Can we do this? Yes, I think we can as well. Let's start by talking about our students. Here's what we know about our students. The student experience is changing a lot. When we think about how it's changing, we have 2 mindsets on campus. And I don't know about your campuses, but I hear this a lot. We would be in such a better place if our S only did this. If our S only cared more. If our S only read. If our S only, right? Is this similar? Has anyone else heard this on your campus? We got to stop. We have a reality of who sits there. And if we keep talking about what they're wishing, then we ought to go where those wishes are true. But we have students who are sitting there saying what it is and trying to engage. Because much like with the rest of us, they set goals and aspirations, but life intervenes. And that direct path has a lot of potholes, a lot of hiccups, a lot of things that interrupt it along the way. And the way we interact and the way we help them tell their story sets us apart. But we have to get there together. The college experience is hard. Everybody in our life while we're in college wants something different from us. They think we're telling a different story. They think we have a different message. We have to be the ones that redefine that message, repackage it in a different way and make it more meaningful. How many in the room are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Right? Yeah, good. I don't even have to tell you what it is. Because it's in my timeline, I'm going to do it anyway so we don't end up finishing really early. But the essence of Maslow's hierarchy of need is we all want to reach something called self-actualization. We all want to reach this best iteration of ourselves, and it's based on our ego being in check, our community existing, our safety needs being covered, and our physiological needs being covered. Fairly straightforward, right? The problem is for today's students, it's changed just a little bit. They've added something to the bottom. Before they can breathe, they want to know what the Wi-Fi signal is. More recently, because we got a lot of apps, we got to put battery on the bottom to make sure we are fully ready. Given the option between air and electricity on a plane, the average student today is going to be like, I need to plug in. Is that cool? Can I plug up? I'm like, yeah, but the oxygen, he's like, I just need to plug up. Times have changed a lot. When we look at communication, we have evolved in such a different way. If I had told you 10, 15 years ago that the primary way the President of the United States would interact with his constituency base would be through 140 character sentence fragments, you'd have thought I was crazy. But it's where we are. We can talk about where we wish we are, or we can deal with the reality of where we are. And when we know where we are, that puts us in position to better resolve those issues as we work through it. Today's generation of students are skilled slacktivists. Dave, what's a slacktivist? It's an activist with a slacker component. Let me tell you what this means. If you've ever seen a banner that says, click here if you hate breast cancer, and they click it, and you say, what are the things you stand for? They say, I'm against breast cancer. Well, what'd you do? Well, I clicked the dislike button. We have to connect with them where they are. We have to have this message of saying, slacktivism doesn't mean they come from a bad place. It means we haven't educated on them where we make impact and how we make impact. That's where we have to get together to be able to pull this off. How do we do it? We look at what's happening around us. Each of you should have at your table a piece of brightly colored paper. I want you to grab the piece of paper closest to you. And what I'd like you to do is ball that paper up. We good? You feel good? All right, in just a second, what I want you to do, now listen, there's a couple pieces of this. You cannot move from your seat, okay? In just a second, I'm going to ask you to throw your paper at me. Your goal is to hit me. I'm going to stand still. All you want to do without moving from where you are is throw that paper at me in the hopes of hitting me. You got it? Yeah. Do you understand? You cannot move. Ready? Set. Your arm is like cocked. You're ready, right? This is trying to go through me. Go. How many people think you hit me? A couple people? How many people think you did not hit me? Whose fault was it that you did not hit me?
Mine.
Your fault? Why is it my fault? So you're telling me where you sat was an arbitrary choice you made that I have now used against you to accomplish a simple task. Variables that were out of your control based on a choice you made, I have now locked you in and held against you when the task was very simple to hit me.
That's right.
But 'tis the same for our students, right? They make choices that are out of our control, and we hold account of them. We go, that target was really easy. All you had to do was show up to the library. All you had to do was meet with the tutor. All you had to do was this. And they're going, you don't realize, Dave, I'm sitting behind a pillar. I can't even see you, let alone hit you. But we don't learn what these barriers are. We say, it was easy. I'm the target. You could have hit me. You didn't try. And our word may not be you didn't try, but our message a lot of times is you didn't try. We got to get rid of that. We got to get rid of the you didn't try message because it's hurting us. Where's my yellow paper, folks? People who had a yellow sheet of paper. You know you're at another disadvantage? You had 70-pound paper. Everybody else had 20-pound paper, but these guys making a ball like, what? Everybody doing this so easy, man. Like my paper is like something that's hard to put into a ball. See how well I had thought that particular sentence out? It worked out all right for the rest of us. But we come in with these barriers and they're real and they impact us. And they change the experience. Students are up against it in some ways. When we think about our students, in summary, our students get a well-deserved bad rap. They're underprepared, loosely committed, work too much, study too little, and not engaged in the classroom. They're distracted by their phones, their peers, their hormones, their exhaustion, their hunger, and their families. And they're needy. They want access to us when they want access to us. They pay no mind to what else is pulling for our attention. Committee meetings, community service, phones don't stop ringing, email, pushy deans, grant deadlines, and grading. But they're here. But they're here. With 1,000 available excuses and distractions, they showed up. So we owe it to them to do the same. We need to not show up, but arrive with an energetic, engaged, enthusiastic commitment to the first-year experience that draws them in and convinces them they're making the right choice. I am convinced that the majority of students who walk onto our campus for the first time have convinced themselves they don't belong and are looking to have that message reinforced. I am asking you whether the choices you make may be subtly reinforcing that decision and giving people permission to walk off your campus and never return. Stop giving them permission to quit. So I had a woman in college who I was trying to pursue sexually in a relationship. It's two. We had penis earlier, we had sexually now. There may be one more later if I get the courage back up to do it. All right? But I was courting this person as we came through the process. And we went on a couple dates, and she said, Dave, you just need to understand my defenses are so high right now, there's no possible chance that I'm ready to enter into a relationship. I said, all right, how can I counteract somebody who says my defenses are too high? So we went on another date. I felt really good. I'm like, I need to find a way to make this work. It's important to me. It's meaningful. So I said, how do I counteract it? So I went to the dollar store, and I bought 100 little green army men. And I went to her house for our next date, and we sat down, and I said, I'll be right back. And I went into a room, and on the bookshelf in her room, I lined the 100 army men up straight across the top shelf. Said, your defenses are up. I get it. We all fight battles other people know nothing about. Here's what I want to do. I'm a visual guy. I need to know if I'm making progress. You now have 100 defensive army men. If I do something cute that gets me closer to being your boyfriend, I want you to give me 1 or 2 or 6 or 10. And when I have all 100, I'll know that we're going to be together. And it worked. Now, I want to be able to tell you, now that's my wife. It's not my wife, not at all. Actually, when she sees this video, I'm going to get in trouble probably for telling the story. But the message was, we got these defenses up, and I put army men by each of your places. Take it back. Put it on your desk. Realize that the student who walks in has their defenses up. They're looking for you to affirm for them that they don't fit and that they should find another path. And a lot of times we don't try to break those barriers down. Instead, we just do it. We are barrier busters first. The choice we make. And when we tell somebody, financial aid bailed, I don't know what to do for you, we're not breaking a barrier down. When we tell that person, let's go talk to Joan and financial aid together, now we're trying to be part of the solution. What are the choices you make to break down barriers? The most significant way we break barriers down is learning our students' stories. Thank you. When we talk about stories, it's tough. If I say, I want you to learn the story of the people you interact with every day, that's difficult, right? You're saying, I don't have time, I don't have energy. Hemingway one time was sitting in a bar with a couple of his buddies, and they made him a challenge. They said, let's write a short story and see who the best is. Hemingway said, this is easy for me. I can write you a story in less than 10 words that's got drama in it. His buddies were like, no way. They all threw money in a hat. He wrote down the story. It was a 6-word story. He puts the story together, passes it around to his buddies. They all decide he won. His story said this: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. 6 words, yet the story carries an impact, packs a punch. How many of the people who walk into your world every day do you never know their story? This is where we have to start changing lives. I want you to meet Courtney, Holly, Eileen, and Johnny. Students who I've interacted with. Students who we make snap judgments about, for better or for worse, when they walk into our world in one way. But if I right now ask you to make a judgment, make an idea, make a commitment, make a thought about what you can say about each of these 4 students, you may struggle, you may not. But all of us default to something to say, I know stereotypically who and what you will be. We look at Courtney and I tell you she wants to be a social worker, and you go, that makes sense. I tell you that she's got a young child, you go, I don't see her as a single mother. If you know she's a single mother, does it change your story? Does it change your interaction with her? If I tell you that Holly wants to be an RN, you make some judgments and say, this is what it is. I asked Holly, what is the biggest snap judgment you face every day where people say something about you that's untrue? She said, everyone thinks I'm a lesbian. I said, why? She said, my hair's short. Every day walks around fighting that. Eileen came in and said, I have trouble reading and my handwriting is not pretty. What can I do? Now she works in the community college system because we sat and talked to her. And Johnny returned as an older student. I remember meeting him because he told me at the end, right before orientation, when I was running orientation and he was sitting on a bench outside. I said, it looks like you have a pass for orientation today. What are you doing? He goes, I'm waiting for the bus. I said, why? We didn't even start. He said, I don't belong here. I said, hey, it's okay to be scared. We're all scared. We just show it different ways. Johnny ended up graduating 2 years later. He grabbed me at the end of graduation. He said, do you know all I wanted to do was leave that day, but no one in my life had ever told me it's okay not to be scared? All the stories don't have happy endings, right? Johnny lost his life to his alcoholism just a couple years after he graduated. But we were a happy part of that story that he told. And when they talked at his funeral, they said without Lord Fairfax, he would not have made it as long as he did. How do we learn the stories of our students so we can be part of the answer? We have to get rid of snap judgments, write it down, and move forward. The second aspect about our students is about teaching. Good job. When we talk about our teaching, we think about the lesson from somebody like Edison. What Edison told his son when he was just getting in is, look, you're learning the piano at this point. They're going to give you assignments. Do those assignments, learn those assignments, but most importantly, go out and play the pieces you like. Because it's when you get lost in the moment and when you start to learn in that aspect that you really start to ingrain and become a better person. How many of the ways we interact with our S right now are we simply saying, do what I've asked you to do so we can check a box? We're not instilling lifelong passion for learning. We're instilling lifelong passion for getting through. We have to reframe and repackage the interactions that we're having. There was a study done in Madison a couple years ago that said 10 to 12 minutes is about the max of what we can take. 10 to 12 minutes before our brain says, I am on information overload, let me regroup. What do we do with those 10 to 12 minutes? What does it look and feel like, and how do we break it up? We're going to do it through a series of riddles. I want you to find the answer to this slide, and when you have it, raise your hand. Don't tell anybody around you, just find the answer. When you have the answer, raise your hand. Don't panic that other people at your table have already raised their hand. Just find it. It's very clear. It's not that difficult. If you are really struggling, read it out loud in your head. There you go. Got some more? Keep working. If you're still struggling, count the word the. All right. You may put your hands down. It's tough when people around you do this. We're going to do a set of 3 more riddles. You ready? These are going to be in your own head riddles, but you can work with people around you if you're so inclined. Here's the next one. There are 3 boxes. There's a car in one and only one of these 3 boxes. Each box has a statement. Only one of the statements is true. Where is the car? All right, I hope you figured it out. Let's go to the next one. 3 guests check into a hotel room. Clerk says the bill is $30. Each guest pays $10. Later, the clerk realizes he made an error and the bill should have been $25. To rectify this, he gives the bellhop $5 to return to the guests. On the way to the room, the bellhop realizes he cannot divide the money equally, so they don't know the revision. He takes $2 for himself and gives $1 back to each of the 3 guests who originally paid in. So here's what we know. Each guest has now paid $9, means there's a total paid to $27. The bellhop has 2, which puts us at $29. Where's the last dollar? Figure it out. $15 seconds left. Feel free to use a calculator if that will add value to your efforts. Would you like a hint? You're focusing on the wrong information. You're trying to count to 30. 30 is irrelevant in this riddle. How much did they pay for the room now? $25. How much of a tip did they give to the bellhop? $2 for a total of $27. 3 of them paid $9 each, which is a total of $27. There's no missing dollar. We focused on the wrong part of the addition. Let's do one more. There are 8 pills. They're all the same size and color. One pill weighs slightly more and is poisonous. You have access to a balance scale and can only use it twice. Can you find the poison pill? Remember, you only get to weigh them twice. So you're going to say, Dave, this is easy. You do 4-4, do the heavier, 2-2, do the heavier one. No, you can only use it twice. How do you get there? I'm not sure you're trying hard enough. Why don't you work with the people around you at your table, see if you can figure this one out. All right, just never mind. We have to move forward in the interest of time. We have to move forward. We have one bonus riddle because you seem to be enjoying these so much, so here's one more. All you have to do, this one's multiple choice. Just figure out what the last part of this sequence is. Raise your hand if you have it, please. 1 over there. You feel confident? What's your confidence level? 0 being, please don't make eye contact. 10 being, I would bet $10 on it. A 7.5. All right, I will give you a hint. Would you like a hint? Try to vertically cut the numbers in the series in half. Then look for a mirror. All right, the correct answer is A. If you didn't get it, I encourage you to Google it later and see if you can figure out why. How many people are slightly frustrated right now? Why?
It could be.
It could be, yeah, E could. Somebody else said that. If you go digital clock, E would be acceptable just the same. Why do we get frustrated trying to do things like this? We as a people have learned to manage our frustration in ways that don't hurt others. We don't overreact to things. We don't have to worry about road rage exploding in some way in our face. But we get bothered. And let me tell you why I theorize that this is. We are very fortunate people. We have developed into content area experts in almost everything we do. For many of us, we cannot remember the last time we walked into a room that we weren't an expert in the conversation being had. When it comes to teaching, this makes it really difficult to translate down to remembering students who either don't feel like experts in our discipline or in many cases don't even want to be in that room at all. The same frustration you felt when riddle after riddle after riddle you could not solve, they face every day when they're sitting in your class and you're going, it's just a hierarchy, this isn't that difficult. They're saying it's not for lack of trying, I just don't know the path. When we teach, we have to find ways to do that, to avoid the feelings of frustration, perhaps even to make ourselves vulnerable. Because when we feel vulnerable, we can either laugh it off, as Jennifer Lawrence taught us, or we can realize that vulnerability takes courage. And when we think about the courage it takes to be vulnerable as a teacher, vulnerable as an academic advisor, vulnerable as a financial aid person, vulnerable in whatever capacity we are, it's how we open the door to moving forward. But our teaching has to be set up to do this because our influence is far more significant than we even give ourselves credit. We influence other people all the time, and I want to test this theory right now. I think I can influence the behavior of a small subset of the people in this room by doing something very casual and very little. Now, I know if I talk about something, it will absolutely influence behavior, but my question is, if we just experience something, will it influence behavior in the same way having a dialogue about this very same thing may? Now, I don't know if it's going to work or not. I need you to help police the room as I can, but there's this thought that perhaps we can elicit responses and influence behavior by doing nothing other than existing and seeing whether or not this does. Now, the good news is, for those of you strong, back of your tongue, raise your tongue to the back of your mouth to make sure I don't give in to Dave temptation. That's fine. We'll deal with that later. But we realize that the influence is real, and the influence makes a significant difference. And let me prove it to you. Can everyone stand up in your seat for just a second? Not on your seat, just like where you are. All right? Now, what I would like you to do is take a hand, either hand, left or right, and raise it as high as you can. All right, now look around, and I want to ask you to do this with me. Watch your colleagues and yourself. Look at these hands, folks. You see the hands? Now, what I'd like you to do is raise it just a little bit higher. Now, my question to you is, raise your other hand if you raised your first hand higher. So for everyone who has two hands up, it begs a fundamental question. The first time I authentically asked you, raise it as high as you can, and you told me you did. But I asked you to, you can sit, but I asked you just to raise it a little bit higher, and nearly everyone in the room had something else inside them. Why on the second ask did the game change? That's the dialogue we have to start to ask ourselves and one another. Are we really raising it as high as we can? Or are we raising it high enough not to draw attention in a negative way to ourselves? What is the message in terms of teaching? We talk about teaching being giving ourselves to the people around us. This is about vulnerability. This is about conversation and connection. It's about being a little less. Todd Whitaker tells us it's about raising the praise and minimizing the criticize. When the student comes in, our first message is, you missed the deadline, versus, since we missed the deadline, here's what options still exist. But how we have that interaction matters. When we go to criticism first, it comes at a cost, versus saying, let's build it up together. I have made an active effort over the past year to make my students co-owners of the learning experience. I use rubrics much like the rest of you probably do. And I say, here's exactly how your grade's going to be broken down. I print them out, I put it on the top, say, here's how many points you earned. This year I added this column, student self-score. And every student who submits a paper now prints this out as the cover sheet and scores themselves on the exact same rubric I'm going to use to grade their particular assessment. Because of this, when they say they didn't include any references, they have to give themselves a 0 on the rubric. But I can't tell you how many conversations I got to have to say, look at the difference between our two columns, and how many students have said, by being able to fill that out, I have an exact sense of how to do this. I said it was in the syllabus last year. They said, yeah, but I didn't look at it. Now I can get mad, reality versus wish. You should have looked. Or I can say, as a partner, how do we learn together? How do we set it up? It's all about our future. And what I want to do is share with you 9 things that I think will reshape the future of the community college system in particular, if we do our job, if we get to a better tomorrow. First thing is being authentically dissatisfied. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of organizations, and my focus is always starts with GS equals DCSA plus VF plus FSA. It's a very simple concept. If you've struggled with it, don't worry about it. It's not advanced math at all. It's just GS equals DCSA plus VF plus FSA. If I ever get a tattoo, it's going to be GS equals DCSA plus VF plus FSA. I don't have to tell you where it's going to go. I'm just saying that it's going to be there. Do you feel comfortable at this point with GS equals DCSA plus VF plus FSA? Anyone have a question about it? Well, we can't ask a question, Dave. There's a lot of people here, and if I raise my hand and ask a question, you're going to do something to embarrass me. That's rude. GS equals DCSA plus VF plus FSA means this. Goal success is contingent on 3 variables. Variable number 1, dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs. Variable number 2, vision for the future. And variable number 3, a first step for which we are willing to be held accountable. What the research tells us is that our goal is not going to be met unless we have DCSA, VF, and FSA. The problem in having coached and talked to and worked with, collaborated with, and consulted hundreds of organizations is the DCSA is often there in word, but not in soul. And if we are not fundamentally dissatisfied with the experience we are giving our first-year students, we will never change it. We say we want to do better, but do we bleed that? Do we mean that? And every time we have the choice to do what we've always done in the past or go out on a limb and try something new, different, or innovative, do we default back to what's done before, what's easy, and what's the least mentally exhausting? We have to be authentically dissatisfied in order to move it forward. Second, we have to redefine engagement. The Center for Community College Student Engagement told us several years ago in this study, research shows more actively engaged students are more likely to learn, to persist in college, and to attain their academic goals. Student engagement, thank you. Student engagement, therefore, is an important metric for assessing the quality of college's educational practice and identifying ways colleges can help more students succeed. In other words, engagement is the silver bullet, is the magic elixir, is the fast path. What does engagement look and feel like, and how do we set that up? That's the question. I think we define engagement incorrectly as a community. To me, engagement is about confidence first and foremost. Am I confident in this environment? Am I confident as a contributing member in this community? Do we have positive interdependence? Do we have meaningful one-on-one interactions, or am I simply another student sitting in the back of the classroom? Where is the meaning derived, and what does that look and feel like, and what do I do about it? Do we bust barriers for students or put more barriers up? The financial aid office is only open from 10 until noon every other Tuesday. Then you go to a meeting and they say, why are we losing adult students? What's engagement about? Engagement is not about information dissemination. We sit here and say they don't pay attention, they don't care, they are on their phones, they didn't listen to my hour lecture on this. Maybe we didn't need to give an hour lecture on something. Maybe we need to do 20 minutes and let them feel or do something, maybe reach as high as they can. Doesn't have to derail an entire conversation, but something that's beyond information dissemination. Third, destigmatize the interventions. FYE has a stigma in some places. Either we address it or we don't. Ours in the VCCS is called SDV. It's a student development course. And we never have faculty who go the first day and say, I understand you don't want to be here. Let's talk about why. Why we can't do that? Because it makes us vulnerable, right? Well, Jennifer Lawrence tells us, at least I have my underwear on. Go be vulnerable. Be willing to take a shot and go, you know what, you don't want to be here? My goal is to win that over. The first day when I teach my psych class, I say, here's the deal. If you are a psych major, my goal is to reaffirm that while you are here. If you are not a psych major, my goal is to make you reconsider. Now, most of them aren't going to reconsider, but I tell them day one, my goal is to change your path. Let's tell them that. Why does our FYE exist? What are the goals of that first significant interaction? Is it a letter you mail to their house that says you are now a community college student? Is it a call from an advisor that says, I see you've applied, let me tell you what options are available for you next? Is it something that says show up for orientation? Where is the first meaningful interaction and what is the result? What do you intend to accomplish and what variables are they up against? Before you start, can you signify success? Covey tells us to begin with the end in mind. It's the very essential same message. How do we signify success for a signature program of our first year experience? I want you to, right now, actively do this. If you got access to a piece of paper, I want you to write something down for me. And what I want you to write down is the answer to this question. What do you want your students to be saying at the end of their first year? What do you want your students to be saying at the end of their first year? Now, because I believe in rules and structure, I will tell you this. You can only use 10 or fewer words to answer this, and you have 45 seconds to get it done. Go. All right, anybody got one they love? Sir?
I know what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing, that the student knows what they're doing. Sir?
I want to return next year or get a job.
I want to come back or get a job. Love it. Ma'am?
I can be successful.
I can be successful here, hopefully, or in life, or anywhere. Okay, sir?
I love my life.
I love my life. That's broad. I like it. Ma'am?
I had a great first year experience.
I had a great first year experience. That's too many words. You need to count that again. Sir?
I belong here. I made the right choice.
I belong here. I made the right choice. Kevin?
I can't wait to come back.
I can't wait to come back. Yes, ma'am.
I know how to move forward.
I know how to move forward. Anybody else? Almost all the ones you shared were about what? But they were about feeling, not doing. Nobody said I can do math or I understand what's in an atom. We talked about feeling, but we sell in FYE process. We have to get away from process and get to feeling. If we want to get to feeling, we have to assess the feeling, we have to build feeling, we have to create feeling. We have to create feeling. Google did a study a couple years ago where they researched the most translated expressions in the world. Anybody familiar with this study? I went in, I'm like, I need a hamburger, which way to the bathroom, and what time is it? That was my top 3. The top 3 were, how are you? I love you. And have a good day. We don't care about hamburgers and bathrooms until we deal with the mental cognition of the people around us. We have to sell feel first. Now I'm putting number 4 up here, but I want to tell you before I put it up here that this is the one I'm most nervous about talking about. You ready? I'm even nervous to press the button.
You got this.
Thank you. I think we need to get rid of trigger warnings. I think they are backfiring in a spectacular way. And if you're not familiar with trigger warnings, that means we are compelled to tell people ahead of time, we are going to talk about something in this class that might upset you. We are going to talk about something today that may distract you. We are going to talk about something today that may make you feel uncomfortable. I think these are a horrible, horrible idea. I understand that people have dealt with PTSD and rape victims, and so many people have factors in their life that hurt them. I don't think those are the people who benefit from trigger warnings. I think people who are opting to exclude themselves from activities based on trigger warnings are the same people who become internet trolls, who take shots at people because they have never been exposed to ideas that are different than the core values they hold and have grown up with. And when we empower people to walk away from ideas that are different than theirs as opposed to teaching them how to digest and respectfully disagree, we are setting ourselves further back as a community. Rather than let them out, force them in and tell them, I know this is going to make you feel uncomfortable, but here's how we deal with feeling uncomfortable. 5th, refuse to think you've heard this before. Our brains are hyper spectacular. Hyper, right? They can do things you wouldn't even believe, like fill in gaps, or say, I know what this says, or teach us that the English language is actually far more complicated than it needs to be because we could more or less eliminate vowels and we'd still be able to communicate with one another. And we see this in Twitter and things like that. But we give ourselves this credit. I've been here before. I know how to deal with it. I see it every day. If you do, we also deal with a penny every day. Your task is to pick the correct penny. The problem is just because we interact with things every day doesn't mean we really know what's there. And we make assumptions that we know how the pieces fit together, but fundamentally we get interrupted with that school of thought because we've jumped to a conclusion without. Anybody really struggling with this? It's in the top row. It's either A or B. It's A. All right, let's move forward from that particular one before we start to actually smoke ourselves out of the room. Number 6 is BIE. BIE means be intentionally excellent. Be intentionally excellent. There's a lot of times we don't challenge the status quo. We don't push ourselves to think, do, or interact differently, and it comes back to haunt us. When we think about it, it starts with our language. I ask my students, I say, look, you guys don't come see me during office hours. We don't have that interaction. And a student raised their hand and said, Dr. Urso, I was relatively confident that office hours meant you were in your office and grading and we weren't supposed to interrupt you. That makes a lot of sense. If you don't understand college and somebody says, these are my office hours, when I was little, if my dad said I'm going in the office for an hour, I had no interest in going anywhere near that office for the next hour. But we sit here and go, I've been here a while. Office hours make sense. Go talk to your teacher. What if we called them student hours? Now would students go? Now would it feel more likely to draw students in? We go into certain offices on campus. The first thing we say is, are you an AS, AAS, or AANS student? You're like, did you just call me an ass? No, we're like, no, it's applied science. Wait, it doesn't matter what they are. But we're like, you need to know this label. Why don't we say, why are you here? What program are you in? What do you want to do next? Not what's your degree. We have to think about the language that we're interacting with because we don't always deal logically with what's right in front of us. I'm going to tell you the story of the can. First canned food was patented in 1810. So they came across and said, this is how we're now going to serve food. The patent was here. We started to can food and make it available. In the United States, we weren't far behind. 1825, tin cans start to emerge all over the United States. Here's what's cool. The first patent for a can opener, January 5th, 1858. What this means is for 48 years, people wandering around with cans like, if only I could get the food out. Now, I'm sure they found a way, but how did we invent the can and not the can opener? You think what happened, because I researched this and I pieced it together. The can committee felt really good about what they were doing. Then they said, look, y'all are worn out. We're going to have an opening committee. We're going to send it off. It's going to go into the governance model, and we're going to revisit it. We're going to have a research sub-team. We're going to have a design sub-team, and down the road, we're going to come together and we're going to figure out how to open these puppies up. It died twice in committee, but some really committed, hungry people came back around and were like, we really want to open these cans, and finally we were able to open the can. But how do we invent the can and not the can opener? You got cans all over campus, but the question is, what are we going to do about them? The United States and Russia were in a race to get to space together. When NASA in the United States starts to do it, the astronauts came back and were like, man, our pens don't work. They don't work upside down. They don't work underwater. They don't work in the environments of what we need them to do. So NASA spends a decade and $12 billion to make, if you're a Seinfeld fan, you are eerily familiar with this, the pen that writes upside down. Russia faces the exact same problem, hands out pencils to their astronauts and puts them back in the rocket. Damn! 12 billion? There are pencils all over your campus. I asked recently when we did a search committee for a new faculty member, remember I'm an academic dean, to put a student on the committee. The response I got from our institution is we can't trust our students to keep things confidential. Wouldn't having students hire teachers be a frickin' pencil? But we don't pay attention to the pencils because we push around our $12 billion pen and say, yeah, but look at this pen. We have to be intentionally excellent because it sets us up for spectacular failure. I want us to take risks. I want us to fail as a group. I want us to do things that we thought were going to end one way but don't for one reason or another because we're not paying attention. I want to make sure we are taking chances and setting ourselves up. Because if we take a risk, it may backfire. It may not go the way we want. But spectacular failures are the difference between where we are and where we're going. We talk a lot about organizations that are stuck in raw. Because they go ready, aim, 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 aim. It's time for a little fire, folks. It's time to do something and see what happens. 7th is about celebrating dissenting perspectives. A lot of times on our campuses, we quell the ideas that are different from the norm. The people who don't engage in groupthink, the people who are part of the problem, not the part of the solution. Just finished reading a couple books back to back. Amy Poehler's Yes Please and Tina Fey's Bossy Pants. The reason that I share this with you is both of them tell this in their book. The very first rule of improv comedy is say yes. Do not say no because it boxes your partner in. And her example is, she says, if I come and say, my finger is a gun, and you say, no, it's not, now the first person has nowhere to go because you've essentially killed the act. I can't speak for your institutions, but we sure say no a lot on my campus. Maybe we got to ask the people who normally drive us crazy what ideas are percolating in their head to do something different from how we've done it in the past. Maybe that's actually what's going to set us up in a more meaningful way to make that significant difference. Times are changing. In 1998, my parents dropped me off for college. They said, don't talk to strangers, don't get in somebody's car, don't talk to people from the internet. Now I have an app on my phone where I can literally summon a stranger from the internet to get in their car. It's Uber if it's still working its way through, right? But times are different. We have faculty and staff who are teaching and engaging and interacting the exact same way they did 25, 30 years ago. And we can deal with a little bit of that, but we don't deal with a lot of that. We have to be the change agents who transform our organizations for the better. It's in the interest of our, you can do this one, it's in the interest of our students. We have to be intentionally excellent. 8 is fatten the soft skills cash cow. You want to turn your institution around, figure this one out, and you will cash in for the next decade. Dave, I'm not even sure what you're talking about, so can you give me a little more information? What's a soft skill? Good job. Being kind. Handshakes. So we go and talk to our employers, and they said, we wanted to call you in to talk about your graduates of X program. And I said, what's going on? They said, we just want you to know that 6 of them who interviewed came in yoga pants. 6? Yeah, and we want you to know 3 accepted the job and didn't show up the first day. What we are learning from the people we interact with is they will teach you on the job how to keep the factory floor running. What they can't teach you is proverbial bedside manner, how to be an adult human, how to interact with one another. And I will tell you, at the risk of it coming out wrong, how they watch us interact with one another sets them up for what's right moving forward. We have to find ways to tell students you have to be an adult to be a graduate. Because when you walk away from our institution, you carry our flag right there on your shoulder. And everybody you interact with will associate you with us, and there's things that come with you as a result of that. Finally is understand loyalty. There are some companies that do exceptionally well with loyalty. Chick-fil-A, Starbucks. Some of you are Target, some of you are Walmart. There's reasons we pick the groups we're loyal to. And much like in high school, it's about what makes us feel good and what makes us know what it is, whether it's that they pump smell throughout the building based on what they're doing there, or they make aroma, or they sit here and they have music playing, or whatever it is. There are things that brand loyalty. The question you need to answer with your FYE team, why would someone be loyal to you? What makes your institution better than the one 30 miles away? If you can't answer that, we're just another widget. If you can answer that, your answer to the first year experience question before makes all the difference. What makes you unique? Why should I be loyal to you? I've enjoyed spending this time with you. I hope it's given you something to think about in a different way with the way you interact every day in your life. Your work matters. You matter as an adult. You matter as a human. You matter as someone changing the world. Keep going. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.